if people understood the healthcare system the way it is,
Oh my God.
they would realize that health isn't found in a doctor's office. Yeah. It's created inside of our gyms.
Welcome to Behind the Knowledge, a best hour podcast where we dive deep into the lives and stories of inspiring coaches from all walks of life. The two hosts of this show are me, Pat Barber, and my good friend and fellow coach, Todd Aucoin. Each week, we'll sit down with the most amazing coaches we can find, uncovering their unique paths, the challenges they've faced, and passions that continue to drive them. Whether you're a seasoned coach, an aspiring one, or simply somebody who likes listening to stories of how people achieve the success that they have, this podcast is for you. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired by the powerful stories and insights from the world of coaching. This is Behind the Knowledge. Let's jump in.
Here we go, back live on another episode of Behind the Knowledge. Mm-hmm. We've got Nicole Aucoin.
I got that. You did it. That was good.
It.
I set you up for failure, and you failed. That was good.
Perfect.
I'm so happy that happened.
We've got Pat Barber in the house as well.
Got that one right.
Yes.
And we got Todd Aucoin, who's announcing that.
Yeah, and that was pretty close as far as my name goes, so nicely done.
You told me to spell it O-Q-TO, and then I said it like that.
So this isn't about you. This can be about us.
I'm so sorry.
As you can tell.
We spent all day yesterday together, and it was miserable. But it was not miserable. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
So Nicole,
Yes.
we're in this. If you haven't seen this side of what we're doing is we're trying to get to the backstory of coaches and kind of like where they started, what got them to where they're currently at. And you're in an amazing place, and we'll get to there eventually. But like, let's go back to the very beginning. Like, who was your very first, and when you're up and coming, who's a coach that stands out in your head as someone that's like, that person inspired me to head in the coaching direction? Do you have someone like that?
Gosh, I think it starts from when I was cheering.
Okay.
When I was really young, and then I cheered in college and was introduced to CrossFit right after I got out of cheering in college.
Okay.
And that coach was amazing, and then went to, actually, you know him, Chris Thorndike.
Oh, yeah.
CrossFit Gainesville was
Yep.
the first gym I joined, and they had such an amazing staff there, and it was really great. And then I moved down to South Florida, and I actually was doing nutrition coaching before I was doing fitness coaching.
So you started in nutrition coaching.
So I became a dietitian, was working in the hospital, moved down to South Florida to be a dietitian at a hospital, and had no friends. I was like, okay, how do you meet friends?
Yeah.
I'm going to join a CrossFit gym.
There you go.
So I joined a CrossFit gym and met my husband at that gym.
That was the first person you met.
Not the first, but close
You just walked
to.
in and you're like, you're my husband.
That's the guy.
Solid choice.
But I would say it was Chris Thorndike, and his crew were such amazing coaches. And I got my level 1 and was coaching a little bit, but I had a full-time job.
Yeah.
And then was doing nutrition coaching mostly.
So when you started nutrition coaching, you kind of didn't have to seek members, it sounds like, because you were in a hospital.
I was in a hospital, and then I actually became pretty close with some of the doctors at the hospital, and the healthcare system's really broken, right? The doctors the patients would come in, and the doctors have 5 minutes with them, and they would send them on their way. And there was a pediatrician that had a lot of kids with fatty livers, high triglycerides, and it was from the overconsumption of processed carbohydrates and sugar, and they didn't exercise. So he asked me to come into his office, and that's actually how Healthy Steps Nutrition really started. I was seeing patients out of his office once a month, doing nutrition coaching, and then started like my own thing outside of another gym. It wasn't a CrossFit gym at the time.
Yeah.
And built my clientele from the hospital patients.
Yeah. Well, so when you were first doing, like, say your first patient.
Yep.
So you come out of becoming a registered dietitian.
Yep.
Your very first coaching client, like, what was that experience like? What did you?
I was scared.
Yeah. Well, as we all are. But so do you remember who that was and like how that went down?
I don't know about the very first one, but I would say the way I coached people when I first started, it's very different than the way we do it now.
Well, tell me what was the first, how did you start?
You have so much knowledge that you just want to give to people, and you just want to help them so much that it's like a fire hose.
Yeah.
And the way I had set up the nutrition coaching programs when people signed up was, I would call it a power hour, a one-time sit-down that was the fire hose.
Yeah.
They could essentially learn all of that stuff online.
Right.
And there was no follow-up after that. And it was odd that people didn't see good results and they left like, oh my gosh, really overwhelmed. I didn't understand why. And then it slowly evolved to, okay, let's see if we can do a 1 month package. And then it was a 3 month package where I built in time and accountability. But what that really meant was I could slow down and just focus on one thing and keep the clients accountable to that one thing and then add the next thing to the plate. And then that's really where, you know, people started seeing better results and biometrics and blood levels, everything started improving because we had those metrics like, okay, here's where you were, here's your blood levels before, and then here's where you are 4 months later. It improved drastically. So at the beginning, it was a fire hose is the only way I can explain it, and people left super overwhelmed. I think I came with obviously a good heart. Like I just wanted to help people, but you don't know what you don't know. And
what was your journey like in nutrition? Like, was it something that once you dove in to get the knowledge that you had, that you were like, all right, I believe this, I'm all in, and you were able to like take and implement everything right off the bat?
Oh gosh. So when I was young, my mom was diagnosed with cancer, and we completely changed our diet, and I knew nutrition was really important. My parents were really strict with what we had in the house in regards to food.
Yeah.
And
because of the cancer?
Part of it. Like so she had breast cancer and like did surgery, radiation, chemo, and was okay for a few years. And then when it came back, they went 100% alternative. Like my dad bought a hyperbaric chamber, like crazy things back. And this was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And we only like whole foods, mostly organic, raw, like lots of things. And my mom lived 5 years longer than the doctor said she would.
Oh, wow.
Like those are 5 years that I had, you know, and I knew nutrition was important then. And then when I went to college, I cheered for University of Florida, and there was pressure to look a certain way. And it didn't come from the coaches per se, but it was like self-induced pressure. So
for sure.
I had an eating disorder, 100%. And the coaches realized that, and they sent us all to a dietitian. And that day I left and I changed my major, and I had never looked back since.
Oh, wow.
So
just for selfish curiosity, do you, when you reflect back, I'm not saying that there's guilt that your parents carry, but that emphasis on nutrition growing up, do you feel like that spurred any of it towards your psychology around food? Like, or was it just the environment of
the sport?
I think it was the sport.
Or the environment of the sport.
I think it, like my parents wanted us to eat whole foods, and my mom was a dentist, and she sugar rotted her teeth, and so we didn't have sugar in the house, and it wasn't, you know, we ate balanced meals. Like it was fine growing up. I think in college, you are in front of a lot of people in a stadium, and cameras are always on you, and you just want to look a certain way. And I thought if I ate less and exercised more, and that's not how it works.
Right.
So they sent us all to a dietitian, and I changed my major that day.
And you're in.
Yeah. And
okay.
What I will say, going to your question, is what I learned in school is not what I teach today. You know, when you look at the research and what's taught in university, and you know what I had to do even when I was in the hospital. There's a phrase that I heard called moral injury, where you know something is not right, but you can't do anything about it. Like your hands are tied. And I'll give you an example. When I was in the hospital, people with diabetes, type 2 diabetes, not type 1, they could have 60 grams of carbohydrates at a meal. No matter what it was, doesn't matter. Like you can eat 60 grams of carbohydrates. You're sitting in a bed all day. And what would happen is they would have 4 juices, and then their blood sugar would spike up, and then they would have a ton of insulin. They would crash, and then they would feel like crap. It was this like roller coaster. But the rules in the hospital were 60 grams of carbohydrates. So as long as it fit that, it didn't matter.
Right.
And the food that, like how we were allowed to teach managing diabetes was something I was so against, and ultimately caused a lot of friction with me being at the hospital. So I left.
So where did that information, so what they're teaching you in university is different than what you know to be true or believe to be true, and what you're witnessing in the hospital. Like, where did you find the information that was what you now teach? Did you, like, when you started at the CrossFit gym in Gainesville, did they start going over nutrition? I'm sure at that time, I know that was kind of early days where it was like Paleo zone. Did you get introduced to something new there, or did you find that on your own outside of your university training?
You know what's interesting, and this is I think why HSN mentoring has such a good place, is the same thing that happens at most CrossFit gyms happened at Chris's gym, and love the gym. But I sat down for a free intro. I'll always remember that, with a guy named Caleb, and he talked to me about, what my goals were. We did this baseline workout. He said nutrition's really important. Maybe he passed by it because he knew I was a dietitian, but they gave me that journal article that was the zone
21.
blocks.
Yep.
And that was the nutrition conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
And then when I went to South Florida and joined that CrossFit gym, nutrition's really important, but that was the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the owner was like, Nicole's a dietitian, go talk to her. So then I would start doing these like nutrition seminars on the side. And then we traveled around to all the CrossFit gyms in the area. I was doing nutrition seminars.
And what did the nutrition seminars consist of? Like, where did you get that information? Because I've seen some of the stuff now, and it's in line with more so what we teach, right? So obviously different than what you learned in school. To some degree.
I never believed, not that I never believed, but when you're taught something in school and they tell you, okay, 50% of your plate should be carbohydrates, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
All these processed carbohydrates, fundamentally, that can't be right.
Right.
So I think looking at, okay, what does Whole30 look like? What does Paleo look like? What does Zone look like? I did a lot of research in Zone early days in Healthy Steps Nutrition, but then it was a lot of like trial and error on myself. Okay, let me put a continuous glucose monitor in for 3 months and just see what happens with my blood sugar. I don't have diabetes, but let's just see. Let me put it on my husband. Let me put it on a couple other people and see how
eye-opening is that, right?
It's super interesting.
Even when you know at a high level what your blood sugar is supposed to do, to see what it actually does it's incredible.
It's cool. And then you start looking at, all right, well, let's start researching how does sleep impact our food choices and our hormone levels, and then how does support system, and then why are people stuck with nutrition? Well, fundamentally, the healthy choice isn't the easy choice for them.
Right.
There's so many barriers, there's so many obstacles, the support system they have. So it wasn't like one thing that I was like, oh yes, I did research in that one thing. It was like, it slowly built to this pie of, yes, of course, addressing nutrition with whole foods first, but then we have to talk about sleep. We have to talk about support system. We have to talk about mindset, because what you believe fundamentally, if you don't believe you're a healthy person, you're going to easily go for the unhealthy options.
Right.
It sounds like you are deeply curious.
Yeah.
Like, to kind of answer Todd's question, you're a very curious person, and you don't set yourself in your ways with something that you learn. So then you continue to expand that bubble of understanding and then be like, okay, well, does this make sense with all of the other context? So when he's like, what's the resource you look at? It's like, all of them.
Yeah.
All of them, and put into context and use this brain to contextualize this for the individual I have. Even how you started your long business, you started with the first part of it, which was, I want to give it to you all in an hour.
Yeah, that was not good.
You weren't like, let me see how I can flesh this out across 3 months to make more money. You were like, this doesn't work in an hour.
Yeah.
I want to get you to actually have the outcome that we're looking for. So you're pursuing the excellence of the effectiveness of the program. And then through that, it was like, it needs to be a month. Nope. It needs to be 3 months. And then now you're like, well, how can I do it even more efficiently in 3 months? Is it sleep? Is it motivation? Is it your self-belief structure? So like, after all of the research that you've done and like where you're kind of at now, I'm sure it's continually evolving, but like, where do you start people? Like, where do you, like, when you're going into all of this, like, because there are so many factors.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of, like, to speak to some of the CrossFit gyms that, like, here's the nutrition information. You can't make someone do this, in my experience.
No.
They have to come to that conclusion of their own of
Yeah.
like, I want to do it.
Yep.
And then you go, cool, I'll talk to you more.
Yeah.
But where do you, like, what's your process now for, do you wait till someone comes to you, or are there things people can do to spur that along a little bit more?
So you have to give them free resources to get them started. And then when they're ready for more help, when they're ready to invest in themselves, then, have a paid structure for nutrition coaching that is really focused on accountability. Because it's not nutrition. Yes, you have to teach some of the fundamentals, but it really is accountability.
Right.
Are you doing the things that you said you were going to do? Or were there obstacles? Let's address them and then let's move forward. So the way we work with people is when someone signs up for nutrition coaching, we do a full assessment. Tell me everything. Tell me about a typical day. Tell me about your nutrition. Tell me about your lifestyle. Tell me about your support system, your sleep, all of these factors. And then we might have some ideas of like, okay, this is a low hanging fruit. This is something that we could work on. This is something we can work on. But I'm putting it back on you. Like, Todd, now that you've said all of these things, is there anything standing out for you that you think you could be successful with and starting with right now? And then let's build a plan on that. I'm not telling a client what to do, because if you the client has an insight into their life that you will never have.
Right.
So if you tell them something, or so common, if you give them macros or a meal plan and you say, I don't care about all the 40 plus years of habits you have, you need to follow this thing. That is too many steps for someone to realistically change at one time.
Right.
Instead, let's do something small. Let's gain your confidence. Let's get consistency, and then let's add the next thing to the plate.
Yeah.
So,
and asking for their buy-in too. Like, hey, what is it that you think is going to be the most impactful thing? All of a sudden, it's on their shoulders, and they're sharing, and you're not just telling, right?
And if they might come to you and be like, Nicole, I don't know, like, I'm paying you, tell me what to do. I'm like, okay, well, of everything that you said, here's things that are standing out to me.
Right.
What is something that you would want to move forward with of all these things? I'm always putting it back on them. And then, okay, now let's say they decided, I want to have a balanced breakfast. Like, this is the thing that I want to start with. I need to focus on having more protein throughout the day. Let's start with adding protein for breakfast because I'm not having that. Okay, what does a good protein look like? When are you going to have it? When are you going to prep it? How are you going to remember it? Like, let's go through all the steps. What are potential barriers? Let's navigate those things. And then it's, as a coach, you need to figure out a way to keep them accountable. And I think for a lot of people, they struggle, and I struggled with this at first when we didn't have the Healthy Steps Nutrition app where I can see a picture. My clients can send photos of their food. Are you having a balanced breakfast? And they can check off a habit so I can see, are they actually doing the things or are they not? And you have to have some way to check in with clients between a 1 month period of them coming in to work with you.
Are you a CrossFit coach who's feeling stuck in their development? You're not alone. Many coaches lack good guidance when it comes to how to develop as a coach. They either don't have strong examples they find themselves around, they may lack support from their gym owner, and they just feel unprepared going into their next credential. That's why we made the Knowledge Pro, to fill that gap. It's a mentorship program built for coaches like you. It uses the Knowledge Daily, our comprehensive video library, as well as extra content that we put directly into the Knowledge Pro on our live weekly calls twice a week to mentor you and get you to the next level of development. We've got progressions, we've got scales, we've got one-off tips and tricks, we've got full coached classes by level 4 coaches so you can see an example of what it means to do this job well. All of that will also be walked through each week on those live calls, so that you have a soundboard to bounce off of and a group of coaches looking to be better to help support you in your endeavors. Coaching isn't just knowing what to do, it's also knowing how to do it. And that takes 2 things. 1, an example, and 2, practice. Practice is on your end, you got to go out there and do it. We can help provide that example and the support with the Knowledge Pro. If you want to know more, click the link below and give the Knowledge Pro a shot. I look forward to seeing you on one of the next calls.
So this is awesome. So it sounds like what you did. You're like, okay, I educate the daylights out of myself. I realize that it's not about delivering like a system to somebody. It's about being like, who's this person? What are they giving me? You put it a little bit on their shoulders. They give you one thing, and then you use your education to educate them on that one scenario.
Yep,
and you give them the one thing that they need. And then my guess would be that they have the successes with that, and then you snowball that into larger and larger successes, giving them more and more information.
Yep.
And that's what you teach it at HSN. That's what you coach other coaches in how to do.
Yep.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. So let's yes.
So similar to just coaching CrossFit, right?
Yeah.
The concept of triage, right? You see what your athlete's doing. They have multiple faults. Cool. What's the one thing we're going to work on today? And trying to stay disciplined and stick with that. And I think to your point of your 1 hour fire hose session, a lot of us as coaches start that way in coaching. It's like, I know all this information for all these movements. Let me give you everything at once. And they're just standing there, wide-eyed, not knowing what to do next because you've just taught every single piece of the movement.
But I think where that comes from is actually a limited scope of belief. So like if you have a very narrow belief structure around something, then it really limits your ability to be broad with your conversation. Like I think when let's say when you first get into CrossFit and someone first comes over and you're like, this is it, you have to do this, it's right here. And it's just like you just spew all the stuff at them.
Yeah.
Versus like when you have a much larger of like, okay, this is part of the larger fitness picture. We believe that it's better than everything else. And here's why, but I don't need to tell you that right away. What do you believe? Let's have this conversation. You don't need to give them everything in one go. So it sounds like you've continued to expand your realm of understanding of nutrition. And within that, don't feel the need to give everything in one go because it's not actually everything and there's so much else to do. Oh, something's going on somewhere. Sounds hardcore.
You know what? When you think about CrossFit, you're not going to teach someone how to squat snatch on day 1.
Right.
And I think that's what happens with nutrition is we teach people the super complicated stuff first, and then they feel overwhelmed, and then they leave and they feel like they can't do it, and then they don't do it, and then your program didn't work for them.
Right.
When in reality, maybe we just didn't set them up for success.
Right.
Like, you got to sit down, meet them, and also this comes to setting expectations early before someone signs up. Here's what our program looks like. Here's how we can help you. Here's how we can support you. Here's what we will do, and here's what we won't do. And as long as everyone comes in and there's a clear understanding of what you offer, then you can have a really successful coaching relationship.
Yeah. So what are you, along the way, I mean, it sounds like you've had like, one of the bumps was trying to fit everything in an hour, and then you adjusted that. So what are some other hurdles that you jumped, like getting here? Like what are some pitfalls that maybe other people can avoid as coaches coming up in either the nutrition coaching space or just any coaching in general that you've done, that you've had? Some things that have happened that maybe you've overcome.
Oh gosh.
Or mistakes that you've made.
I've made a lot of mistakes. Some way more costly than others.
Like what?
So.
If you're willing to talk about it.
Yeah. Goodness. Okay. So simple stuff. The way I set up appointments. So like I would have like an open calendar because that was my job, and I'd have one person come in at 8 a.m., one person come in at 12, one person come in at 5, and then it was a full waste of a day. Now you block schedule and you have people back to back, and then you can do like other things to help grow your business outside of that. When I first started, I didn't have a streamlined system to be able to set clients up for success and support them between in-person visits. So they would text me, Facebook message me, call me, email me, and I was impossible to keep track of conversations, so I would feel like overwhelmed with just a few people. And
do you have that built into the app now?
Everything is done in the app.
Oh my god, can I give you a high five? I actually am signing up today. It's going to be great.
That was really stressful. So that was a problem when I ran nutrition challenges and didn't have a way to support people after the challenge was over. So people would see good results, and then I'd be like, all right, awesome
cool.
job.
Good luck. Good luck. Let me know how this goes.
That was terrible.
After our cheat meal or cheat day to celebrate the success, right?
Right. So that wasn't good. It wasn't until, people came to us after, like early on. My husband and I went and did a nutrition challenge in the Keys, which is the #1 drinking county in the U.S. Fun fact.
Good for them.
And one of the things that we talk about is alcohol. And I was like, all right, I need to switch how I talk about this, because if I say don't drink alcohol in the #1 drinking county, that they're gonna be done with this challenge. So we didn't do that. But it wasn't until that challenge that people came to me afterwards and like, can I continue to work with you after? Like, I saw good results. And then we figured out an easy path. Okay, here's where people start, here's where people continue, and then now almost everyone continues that does a challenge. We use it as a springboard, like a kickstart, like your on-ramp program to CrossFit.
Right. Yeah.
Someone doesn't do on-ramp and then go to 24-hour fitness. They do on-ramp and then they go to classes.
Right.
You do a nutrition challenge and then you go to ongoing coaching.
Unless you punt that on-ramp, in which case they're like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
I am off. Yeah, but you're right.
And then that person should not be working anymore.
But that's such a big thing, is like, you made mention how many gyms avoid nutrition, and it's like all the same skills that we develop as coaches to teach people movement needs to be in play with coaching nutrition. And to your point, it's like once we've been with somebody for a few months at the gym, it's like we've taught them everything they need to know to go and do it on their own. Like, they don't really need me anymore, right? Workouts are online for free. You can buy stuff, outfit your garage.
Yep.
But people want the accountability, they want the support, they want the community.
Yep.
And it sounds like you guys take that same approach to your nutrition.
100%. And the other thing that I think is really important when you are trying to build a team, like I've hired dietitians, they had the credentials, but they didn't have the soft skills or the follow through that we need for our coaches to be successful. Yeah. So finding the right people, and when thinking of a gym setting, a lot of owners will put the closest person to them into this nutrition coach role, and that's a huge mistake. Because not everyone's passionate about nutrition.
Right.
It's the other 23 hours of the day. Like, they need to have the soft skills where people feel comfortable opening up to them. And you don't necessarily have to have all of those when you're coaching a class, because you're not getting into the weeds with all the stress that you've got going on and all the other things in their life.
I would argue that if you're truly great, you should have all those.
Yeah.
Because that's what can elevate your ability to actually thrive in a space. But you're right, you don't need to have them all to say, go a little deper, push your knees out.
But you can't hide that in nutrition coaching.
That's what I was going to say, is like, as soon as well, you can if you're systematizing it and you're only saying, and you're not actually treating the person.
Coaching. Yeah.
You're not actually coaching. So like, I think that's what happens with not like bad nutrition coaches. It's the same thing as like a bad.
And I feel like everyone has the heart to serve and help people. So it's not necessarily that they're bad people or
no.
anything. It's just like
not the right fit.
or you just don't know what it could be.
Right.
Like, you don't know
Which is why you find a mentor like HSN and have them help. Do you actually mentor coaches through the process of gaining those skills?
Yeah, so we've completely evolved how we train coaches from when we launched the program in 2015, and the way we structure the training now is there's online modules. I wrote one of the only, I think at this point, CrossFit preferred nutrition course. So they go through like training modules online, but then they also get 6 weeks of coaching from us.
Nice.
And I want coaches to be able to experience like, what does good nutrition coaching look like? Kind of like hiring a CrossFit coach. You're not going to have them coach their first class without doing a class in your gym.
Well,
so just in case you want to log into the knowledge, that's exactly what we've done.
Oh, there you go.
Found coaches who do it really well and give examples because it's one of the best ways to learn. But we couldn't agree with you more. Like, you don't know it till you felt what great is, and then you're like, oh, that's way better than anything I've had before, and I need to emulate that.
Yeah.
And I love it.
I think it's one of the reasons why, as gym owners and coaches, you should drop into other classes, like in other gyms.
Totally.
I was in Virginia Beach visiting my best friend recently, and we dropped into Fern's gym.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the guy's name who was coaching, but he was amazing. And I literally called my husband after. I was like, man, they have good coaches there. Like,
right.
I learned something, and it's fun. It's really fun. So I think as a nutrition coach, if you've never got coaching before, you need to experience it. And as an owner, if you don't know what your nutrition coach is doing, like, that's a huge problem. And I think that is a legit problem in many gyms. They have no idea. I speak at a lot of the CrossFit summits, and gym owners will come up to me after like, yeah, I don't really know what we're selling. They won't say that in the big format, but on a one-on-one conversation, they're like, everything you said is exactly what is happening at our gym. I don't really know what we're selling. I don't know what's being delivered.
Right.
I'm like, okay, well, step one is sign up for your nutrition coaching program. See if it's being delivered at the level of excellence that you want.
Totally.
And if it's not, see if your coach is willing to change. And if they're not, then you need to find a new coach.
Right. And I think that's one of the consistent things that I hear challenges from gym owners is how do you find that right person?
Yeah.
I think it's hard enough to find CrossFit coaches oftentimes in general, and then somebody that not only likes that part of it, but also is passionate about nutrition, and not only passionate about the nutrition, but has those other skills you're mentioning to actually do the role and follow up and accountability and everything else. How do you recommend finding them?
First thing you need to look at is their nutrition. Someone could like nutrition, but they could like keto or some super restricted diet or whatever the case may be, and that's not what you're wanting to deliver for your client. So their like and love for nutrition needs to be in alignment with your nutrition philosophy.
Right.
So I'm not going to coach CrossFit, but then go do Orange Theory or whatever other fitness modality. Like, I'm doing CrossFit. That's my thing.
You'd be surprised. Sometimes we get these coaches who are like, yeah, like I coach at this gym, but I mainly do F45 down the road. And you're like,
but why though?
Yeah, you're like, you clearly don't understand what you're doing, do you?
But that sounds crazier to me than someone being a nutrition coach that's not doing what you...
Well, but you kind of see that in nutrition. You people who have like that single bent.
Yeah.
And then you're like, what?
But wait a second.
Why did you...
Is that the best way? So alignment in your nutrition philosophy, the soft skills. So like a good test for this is go take them to coffee.
Yeah.
Do you leave that cup of coffee feeling like, man, I can't wait to have another cup of coffee with Tom? Or do you be like, oh man, that was really draining and I don't want to do that again.
Soon enough. Yeah.
So that, and then the third thing is follow through. You do not want to have to micromanage a nutrition coach. And if the accountability is between in-person visits, you have to have someone that has good follow through. So I look for nurses. They have those, typically a lot of those skills. Teachers, social workers make really great nutrition coaches. People who've been through their own transformation themselves. So look, maybe it's a fitness like maybe it is a CrossFit coach, but maybe it's not a CrossFit coach. Maybe it's someone else on your team that fits those pieces. Coaches, this is key. Coaches need to be champions of your nutrition program. So if you are a coach at my gym and I walk up to you and say, let's say I'm a member, and I say, hey, Pat, I'm interested in doing nutrition coaching. You can't say, go talk to the nutrition coach. You need to say, hey, that's awesome. Here's what it looks like. Here are the benefits. Here's how you get started. Come over and let's book a discovery call right here.
Yeah.
And that's not what happens in the majority of gyms. They say, go talk to Nicole. She's the nutrition coach. And that person, when they get out of the gym and out of the whirlwind, they get distracted and they never follow up. And then that person doesn't get the help. And then they have a million different advertisements, and then they sign up for something else, but you missed an opportunity because you could have served them. They already trust and love you.
Right. I think that's a fantastic bit of advice just for anyone who's looking to have cohesiveness or even a successful gym, is like, make sure your coaches are champions of the programs that you're offering. Because we get it all the time with people who are like, so we don't really agree on the programs that we're offering. And it's like, well, there's two things you can do here. You can either get rid of the people who don't agree, or you can get a program you all agree with. And you all have to be on board with the program that you all agree with. Or understand the benefits and where it all sits. So it's like, I wholeheartedly stand behind that. Your people have to champion the program that it is, because it's like, they're not going to ever be able to answer a question or even give the right, they don't even need to know the whole thing. They need to believe in it, and they need to have that like structure of like, I believe in what we're offering. Best person to tell you about it is our nutrition coach, but here's the basics and here's where you get started, and let me walk you through that process because I'm so passionate about it. That has to be the backbone.
Has to be. Yeah. That's actually the whole 60-minute session that I'm speaking tomorrow in the hub, is like going into details, into the weeds on this specific part, because it's a limiting factor for gyms that are 400 members and 100 members. Like, you're not going to grow a program if you don't have alignment. It can't be reliant on only one person who's the nutrition coach. And an easy way to do this would be incorporate nutrition into a staff meeting. Have a client wins channel. So if like I'm the nutrition coach and you're a coach, you guys are coaches at my gym, you probably won't know all the wins that are happening in the nutrition program because it's behind closed doors. You see the PRs on SugarWatt or whatever people are tracking their workouts, and so you see the people are getting stronger, but you don't necessarily see the wins that are happening behind closed doors. Yeah. So have a client wins channel. Hey, Andrew lost, this amount of weight, or his blood levels went down by this percentage, or whatever the case may be, so that your coaches can see those wins, because that is so important for them to get more buy-in. Like, this program really does work. I really need to have more people do it, and teach them how to have informal conversations. Todd, if you're working out in the gym and you do a class and you say that workout was way harder than it should have been, I want my coaches to be like, well, man, what'd you eat today? Yeah. How'd you sleep last night? And if we're not talking and empowering our coaches with the tools that they need, they're going to just say, yeah, it was a hard one.
Yeah, and then they move on. Yeah.
Well, but what's interesting, though, is like, take it back to what you were saying, is they need that example of what that looks like.
Yeah.
So someone in the gym needs to step up and be that person who does that constantly. So other coaches are like, oh, that's what that looks like. And I think it's hard because we work as like third-party educators who are like, we're going to give you the information. Please go do it. To some degree. But it's almost like someone in each gym needs to step up and be like, I'm going to own this role. I'm going to exhibit what it is to be really great at this and everything that this gym needs to offer. And I think that can be a conglomerate of people that eventually elevates the whole space. But it's hard. It's hard to be in the role that we're in to educate in that way.
I think what's interesting is coaches might think like, oh, you're just trying to make money. You're adding a nutrition program to make more money. And in reality, like, if people understood the healthcare system the way it is, they would realize that health isn't found in a doctor's office. Yeah. It's created inside of our gyms, and we have the privilege to be able to help someone not only with the 1 hour they're in the gym, but the other 23 hours, so that they have all the tools that they need to be successful, to take control of their own health.
Yeah. And I think, to your point, not only do we need the one person to champion it, but everybody on the team has to be on the same page, and 100%. They better be doing it. Totally. It's like nothing drives me more nuts than being like, hey, this gym's doing this nutrition thing, but none of the coaches are, and oh, by the way, the owner isn't. And they're like, you guys need this nutrition stuff, but we're not doing it. And it's like, how is that possible? Yeah. It's like, hey, I want you to sign up for the open, but I don't do the open. I want you guys to do our program, but these aren't the workouts that I like. It's like it just can't be the case. Yeah. And so, like you said, the whole conversation by everybody and nobody's going to be concerned or complaining that, oh, you're just after making money if they do it, because if they do it, they realize how impactful and important it is, right? Of how much of an impact the nutrition part of the program is and how impactful that is on your health. So, yeah.
I was thinking about your people who take accountability and who get the stuff done as like one of your coaching criteria that you're looking for, and you listed like social workers and people like that. It just made me think of like, have you ever bumped into people who just, they're liars? Like, and it's not like, they're not liars to like, they just like lie, but they'll say something along the lines of, oh yeah, I'll get it done. And then they don't. Or they'll talk about themselves in a way where you're like, that's not true. like you're not being honest with yourself. I would say if you're looking to avoid a person, avoid that person. Because it's like such a deep-seated trait, and it just goes into everything. They can be so amazing at all this other stuff they do, but that one where I'm like, have you ever run into them?
Yeah, there's an easy test for like the follow through. So we have a podcast on Grow Your Nutrition Business, and it's a day in the life of a healthy subs nutrition coach. And I interviewed one of the dietitians on our team just to talk about what does it look like to be a coach, using the framework. Because what people think nutrition coaching is I'm going to sit down with you, I'm going to tell you what you need to do, and then you're going to go do it. And that's not the way it works. So I wanted people to, at least coaches that were coming in to get trained by us, to know what it looks like so they know what they're signing up for.
Right.
And so one of the things I have gym owners do is like, hey, here's the podcast link. Send it to anyone you think would be interested and say, hey, take a listen to this. I thought of you, and let me know what you think. If they never get back to you, or you have to follow up with them, then it's not a good fit.
I like it. So I'll get back to you on the link that you sent me earlier.
Yeah.
I'm just going to make sure. No, we actually have that.
We're out.
So in your coaching journey, I mean, you're here now. Like, what are the next steps for you? So, like, it sounds like you're at the level where you're like, how do I make this more effective for people? Like, a similar place that we're at with coaching, but like, how do I make this more effective for the people who are delivering? Like, what are your next things that you're doing?
Personally, right now, I'm finishing a book.
Cool. Does it have a name? Are you saying it? Don't say it.
It's going to have to do with owning your health. Basically giving people the tools that they need to understand how to make health a way of life.
Okay.
And the goal of that book is really to drive people to the directory that we have, hireanutritioncoach.com, so they can find a healthy subs nutrition coach near them. Cool. So that's the step that I'm personally doing right now. I wanted it to be done by this weekend, but it's not done yet, so that's okay.
Fair enough.
So that's what, our goal is to keep building the base of healthy subs nutrition coaches so that they can make a greater impact in their local communities. Like, my goal at Healthy Subs Nutrition is not to have 1 million nutrition clients. I want to empower coaches to be able to make an impact in their local communities. And then we'll use our platform, our podcast, the book, to guide people to find a healthy subs nutrition coach near them. We have a team of people that do coach development now. So while I'm not in the weeds as much as I used to be, knowing all of the nutrition coaching up-to-date research, I stay in it from afar, but we have a team of dietitians that is in it, like GLP-1 stuff and gut health and hormone health, to empower our coaches so that they have the tools that they need to be able to address those things.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. I'm just reeling on the information that you've given. I just really like it. I like how everything that you've done, to go back to it, is just like, it's been out of how do we help more people with this and how is this more effective. To me, that's like the purest direction you can take a business. I'm obviously a CrossFit purist when it comes to things, and that was my role model for what it meant to be part of something. But you must feel really good about what you do.
I'm really grateful for the opportunities that we've had, and the team that we have is absolutely incredible. I couldn't have done it without all of them. And, we have partners like you guys and Best Hour that we align, and it makes sense. Like, when gyms are with Best Hour and then they do HSN, they're better. They can make a greater impact. Totally. So it just makes sense to align with companies that our values are the same, our goals are the same, and we can make a greater impact together.
You can love it.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I know. The new module in Affiliate University with you guys is huge. So.
Oh, yeah. That was really fun to create.
Yeah.
That was really fun.
I liked your video at the summit with Marcus. And you guys were walking with the thing, and then it ended. I was like, yeah, this is great. This is fantastic. Do you have any more questions for her?
No, that's it. Anybody wants to get more information from you, wants to become a nutrition coach, wants to get this implemented at their gym, where do they go?
GrowYourNutritionBusiness.com is where gym owners would go. HealthySubsNutrition.com is where you can find a lot of information just in general about the framework and how we coach people. We have 2 podcasts. Nutrition Made Simple is like a direct-to-client one, which is really cool for coaches to be able to listen and just get more tools in their toolbox to address topics. Like, last week we talked about coaching in menopause. So clients, how do you address nutrition in menopause?
You don't. You just
steer the. Don't work with those people.
Go talk to the nutritionist.
So that podcast is really great for your resource, and then Grow Your Nutrition Business podcast too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and I'm signing up. The app is here, so I can believe in it and deliver it better.
Oh man, you guys are awesome. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Behind the Knowledge. Now, if you want help developing your coaching and to learn from us directly, check out The Knowledge Pro. There we host live calls with our coaches every week where we discuss content together and work on skills to improve our on-the-floor coaching ability. To learn more, you can head over to besthouroftheirday.com/theknowledge. And if you found this content helpful, we're going to be releasing new episodes every week, so subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend. Thanks again for listening, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.